13th, 2026. Hello and welcome, everybody. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so you can join me with that if you'd like. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. So we're mixing it up a little bit because I think Ryan has approved us. We're going to hear from our student representatives first. And so what's going on, guys?
Hi everyone. So next Wednesday is going to be our last student advisory meeting with the superintendent at the high school. AP tests have been going on for the last 2 weeks, and according to Ryan, they're doing well so far. And sports update, college commitment day will be Thursday, where the athletic department will recognize our athletes who will be playing at the next level.
So next week is seniors week, last senior week. So they'll be doing kind of like a spirit thing, which I'm looking forward to. We have a day, kind of a theme for each day. And then the Massachusetts Association of Student Representatives has a conference on Saturday, which will be like combining all the different regions, and they'll be meeting. I'll be going. I'll see if Maria's around. I have to talk to her about that, and then I can send a report back for you guys for the next meeting, which I won't be at because this is my last meeting, which is coming to an end. And then DECA Nationals, we had a group that finished first place for the kind of first time ever for Nashoba, so that was really cool to see. Yeah, and a whole like stadium full of people, like we heard their names, and then everyone was kind of cheering, so it was a fun experience. And then we also had another group in the top 10, and then another group in the top 20, which was awesome. Yeah, so that's what we have for it. You guys any questions or anything?
To the students. Any questions, guys? All right, well, we totally appreciate you guys being here as always. I know, Ryan, this is your last meeting. I wanted to just say a couple of things before Ryan departs. Maria is going to soldier on, and we are so grateful to have you, Maria, for the remainder and then throughout your senior year. I just wanted to remind everybody here, but you guys pretty much know, so for the community, that Ryan's been a Nashoba student representative to our school committee now for 2 years. His service to our high school, to our school committee, and really to the broader community is commendable. Ryan is a positive role model for all of his peers, and he's constantly inspiring everybody to be better and do more. And he's provided us with honest and thorough feedback on the student experience at the high school, and we really appreciate it. It's helped to guide our decision-making on multiple occasions. So it's been our honor working with you, Ryan, and we wish you the very best of luck at Boston College next year.
Thank you.
Ryan this gift, and Ryan, we'd like to see you open it so that you can show us what you got.
This is going to be funny.
There we go. A whole wardrobe. Awesome. Thank you guys. Where's the camera? Thank you guys.
Can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
The receipts in the bag.
Got it. They're not the same one. It's different.
Oh, if you want to get some rain pants or something.
And we also know that college kids don't always do laundry, so it's probably fine.
Send that off to Bridget.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys.
That is our pleasure,
Ryan.
All right, guys. We will see you on the flip side, okay?
I'll be on the meetings on YouTube.
All right.
Bye, Maria. Oh, God. That was fun. Okay. So I feel a little misty about that. Ryan's pretty big. So, next on the agenda is executive session. So I'm going to move to enter into executive session at 6:05 p.m. for pursuant to National Law 38, Section 21A3, to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares, which I do. This is about litigation and van pool. The session to include school committee, Superintendent Downing, and Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, Ross Malpern. The committee will reconvene to open session at the conclusion of executive session. I'm hoping that will be around 6:40. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Jillian?
No, I had no.
Yes or no?
Oh, no, yes.
Oh, I'm like, I have no questions. That sounds good. Yes, I'm in favor.
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Scott?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Robin? Yes. I'm out.
Yes.
Okay, we're in executive session. Move the agenda for the next item, which is public comment. And anybody for public comment? Yes, go right ahead. Go to your desk, just tell us your name, your town, and then as you know, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Pam Dean. I live in the town of Bolton. And I'm here following the Bolton town meeting, which many of you, hopefully if you haven't yet, you've looked at the recording of the town meeting. I attended it and I spoke at it. There were a number of residents who voiced their concern over the year-over-year operating cost increase from the district. The allocation, which resulted in a 4.2% increase for our town versus a 3% revenue sharing guidance. Following comments of taxpayers related to the district increase, there were others who spoke in response, believing greater fiscal responsibility, collaboration will destroy our school system. I think we all know that's not the case by any stretch of the imagination. It's important to note Bolton's advisory committee held 2 informational sessions to review their planned budget presentation. The presentation highlighted the importance of a revenue sharing plan with the district. These sessions were open to the public. I'm unsure if our school committee reps attended any of them, but I will say that my takeaway from the town meeting and subsequent Facebook posts, some very troubling, I must say, in nature, guides my message in recommending the school district consider expanding on 2 key committee goals: increased accessibility and engage in regular communication with our communities and our constituents. So here's some ideas to consider. Budget plans should include a budget draft reflecting the revenue sharing year-over-year goal number through a strategic financial planning budget process versus any incremental budget practice. I also think the school district, as the town did, should work on a 5-year budget forecast. We have a new high school coming online. Let's just kind of unpack everyone. And we can use it to have more active discussions with the town. I also, I've said this more than once, video record the Budget and Warrants committee meetings. It's about financials for many people. So make them available for replay. Greater transparency. It's critically needed. provide concrete responses to financial and budget questions and concerns from the public throughout the year, rather than a generic, we'll take this under consideration and advisement. I'm still awaiting answers to very specific financial and budget questions that I asked 2 months ago. While the meeting held for the school committee to vote on the final budget, draft budget, is open to the public, I get that. I believe you would agree it's the end of the process and would not result in budget modifications or changes. Hold in-person, community-based informational meetings a month before the final budget committee vote. Engage community members. Get their insight into you should get the insight into taxpayers' concerns, questions, and recommendations, and the community can learn from all of you. This isn't an us versus them. Great ideas may result from these interactions, along with positive changes. In short, the town's financial commitment to the school district is a public trust. The district must honor it by using funds for education, managing them prudently, and reporting on their use in a way that maintains public confidence. I want to thank the school district administration and the volunteers, each of you, for the work you do. I recognize the responsibilities are so much greater in every aspect of your work as compared to many years ago when I had kids in the school system. I believe, as Leah stated at the town meeting, we're all neighbors and we need to work together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I don't think there's any other public comment. Just nobody else is here. So we're going to move the agenda now to the consent agenda, and I have a motion for the committee. You can see there's a lot in the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything out? Okay. So I move to approve the consent agenda of May 13th, 2026. Do I have a second? Second. Thanks, Jackie. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, thank you everybody for that. So moving on to the school committee chairperson update. We are ahead of schedule. This is good news. So I just have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you guys. So the first part is gratitude. So we're entering the last 2 weeks of the school committee season. Is it shocking to you guys? We only have 2 weeks left, one meeting after this. It's crazy. So I want to take this opportunity to recognize 3 of our members who are retiring from their positions. The time and energy they dedicate to the schools and our children deserves all of our gratitude. So first is John. So John McFarland joined our committee about 1.5 years ago, as you guys probably remember, filling an important vacancy for Stowe. Since then, John has served on multiple subcommittees, including personnel and communication, bringing about the website design. So John, your perspective has proved very valuable to all of us, and the questions that you ask always push our thinking as a group. So we are going to miss having you here, and we are very grateful, and we say thank you.
Can I get a sweatshirt?
A BB. Isn't that awesome?
Maybe I got the bottoms. It's unnecessary. Thank you very much.
No, we are grateful to you.
A very sexy picture club. Thank you very much. Timepiece. Remember our time here. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. So I am also going to reserve my comments for Amy because she couldn't be here tonight due to a work commitment. So we'll get her next time, everybody. I would like to also recognize Jackie. So Jackie Reiner joined our committee from Lancaster 3 years ago. This is when we got to meet Jackie. I got to meet you. Your work on policy, Dear Jay, most recently negotiations, has been a tremendous asset to our community. You bring a wealth of experience and knowledge on special education, and it just continues to contextualize matters for us constantly. So So we rely upon your perspective, and you always help us see the bigger picture. You are kind, and we're going to miss you. So thanks, Jackie. Good luck in all your future. It's not a sweatshirt.
I was gonna say like Nashoba school committee, like school of hard knocks.
I survived.
It could be a nonfiction book. My time on the school committee.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to. It's up to you. Yeah. Believe it, trust me.
She got the gala gift.
Oh, well, I think that's quite lovely.
Oh.
Beautiful. I love it.
When my time comes, can I get the girl gift?
You want the crystal bowl? You want a crystal bowl?
So thanks, Jackie, and thanks, John. We really appreciate you guys. And as we bring this season to a close, I remind you that you're not done yet. No. Okay. So, again, I will torture Amy next time. She'll just be able to wipe her tears because we'll be on Zoom. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to kind of burden you guys with, I have a little reflection on the last couple of weeks. It's been tumultuous. There's been some feedback that has been provided, some of it really positive, some of it sometimes negative, and at times a little ugly. But I think that this is my 7th year, and I'm no stranger to that. So this is what I wanted to just say, and then we'll kind of move on. So I'm actually happy to announce that all 3 towns passed our budget. All 3 votes, yay! All 3 votes were resounding, and this is the end result of many months of tireless work on our school committee's part, but also on our school leadership to create next year's program for advancing the strategic plan that is focused on teaching, learning, and community connection. So I'm excited about that. That's great. Each of the 3 towns, their meetings unfolded in really different and unique ways for a variety of reasons that I won't go into. But what resonated for me is that all of the residents of the 3 towns expressed unwavering support for the schools and for all of our educators. So that I was happy to hear. So I heard it at the microphone. I also heard it in all the messages that I received in various ways. But I do want to recognize there was an important viewpoint expressed by some that the school committee needs to remain cognizant of current fiscal limitations during this time of extraordinary inflation. It's kind of hard out there. So I think that we all agree. Because we pay taxes too. But we must also admit that we face incredible obstacles regarding exploding costs without a lot of help from the state, although they're trying, and very limited economic growth in our towns. So that's not a great recipe. So as we have every year, the school committee and the district leadership will use this summer to reflect in order to improve our processes so that we can serve our communities to the best of our ability. I know our town's leadership will also do the same. Before I conclude, I just wanted to address one misconception that I heard at Bolton town meeting, which I was at. That misconception was that the school committee is not listening to the concerns of the towns and the town leaders. So the problem with that claim is that it assumes that the town leaders and the school committee are actually speaking. And we're not. And that's actually by design, and it's an unfortunate design, really. But the regional system is built that way. So if we're not speaking, then it would be hard for us to listen or not listen. So I'll give you an example. In January of 2026, the Tri-Town meeting was scheduled by all of the town leaders, but nobody from the school committee was invited. I ended up finding out about it, and I joined last minute, but that structure that was in place did not allow for any discussion or any collaboration at all. There was some information sharing, and I tried to get it all down, but it was really not collaboration. So, as we go forward, I would like to see this change. Communicating in silos is unproductive, no matter how hard the people within the silos are working. So, on that note, I hope that new seasons bring new advancements for all of us, for the betterment of our kids. So, thanks everybody for listening and hearing me out. So, onward and upward, Superintendent Downing. Here we go. On the agenda next is the superintendent's report. So, I will turn it over to you, Kirk.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that recognition. We got a lot in the superintendent's report for you tonight to share, and we're going to hear from our two superintendents on the vast majority of that work. But I first just want to remind people that as the committee requested, we have updated the Corey materials and the field trip materials for both the Hale, Washington, D.C. trip and the Mary Rollins and Healthy Classroom trip. So those are there. And I think we'll just kind of go in order of how we are here on the superintendent's report, and I'll begin with Assistant Superintendent Friend. Talk to you a little bit about some grants, our EL program, and then we'll shift to capital submittals. So, Assistant Superintendent Friend.
Thank you, Superintendent Downing. Right. The first update is an update to the committee and to our community about our program reviews, specifically two separate federal and state program monitoring reviews that were recently completed for Nashoba this year. Those include our ESSA federal grant program monitoring, which includes Title I, Title IIA, and Title IVA, and the English Learner Education Targeted and Focused Monitoring Review, which provides an in-depth review of how we are supporting our language learners and our families in the district. Both review processes are extensive. They include document submissions on multiple criteria, student record reviews, staff reviews, classroom observations, parent survey and focus groups for our EL program review, and follow-up evidence requests. Both reviews are conducted on a 6-year cycle for every district in the Commonwealth, so we happen to have both reviews in the same year. But I'm pleased to share that for our ESSA federal grant program review, again, that's Title I, IIA, and IVA, the review assessed 28 compliance criteria, and Nashoba met all 28 criteria with no findings and no follow-up required, and I've included the outcomes report there for the committee and the community in this update. In addition, we're proud to share that DESE designated Nashoba as an exemplar district in federal grant program administration, and as a result, we've been invited to present as a panelist at DESE's Federal Grants Conference on June 9th, sharing our practices with other districts across the state. So I'm pleased to be on that panel.
That's a big deal. Well done.
The other review is our English Learner Education Targeted and Focused Monitoring Review. In February, DESE's Office of Language Acquisition completed our Targeted and Focused Monitoring Review and then followed up with requests for additional documentation. The review covered 12 compliance criteria. Nashoba was found to be fully implemented in 11 of the 12 criteria. There was one area that Nashoba was cited as partially implementing, and that was relative to ELE 6 program exit and readiness. The department found that some students, and specifically I share with the committee there were 2 students, were reclassified before fully meeting the exit criteria. The department uses access assessment information as the sole criteria for exit readiness for students. Access is similar to MCAS in that it is an administered assessment provided at the state level and is administered annually for all of our language learners. I will share that those 2 students were 1/10 away from exit criteria on one of the multiple criteria, that the teams involved with both students made decisions to exit both students using other metrics, such as MCAS, STAR assessments, and performance in their classroom. And the teams had made a decision that the student no longer required direct language services, and that was the reason behind the early exit. With that said, we are still found to be partially implementing this criteria. And so in response, we've developed a continuous improvement and monitoring plan to address this finding. The plan has been approved by the department, and we are on track for completion by December of 2026. That's the update for both of these program reviews.
Since this is such a long report and it's so dense, I think we'll pause before going into the operational piece and take any questions on the program reviews for Assistant Superintendent Flynn.
Any questions?
So first of all, great job, congratulations. Just a procedural consideration, it sounds like you said you have 2 reviews this year. If I recall last year, there were other reviews that also were like simultaneous. And I wonder if you've looked at like the schedules of reviews and audits, and you know, like if you looked at the next 12 years, like you can see a spike in years where a whole bunch are happening at the same time. And if there's any way to like smooth those out, I mean, I don't know how much of a burden it pushes on you or the department, if there's any way to
choose.
Hmm?
We don't get to choose.
You can't say, can you do it a year early? That's, you know.
I have actually brought the topic up,
Yeah.
and they said thank you for the feedback.
Thanks for trying to help. I have a question for you.
I agree with you. Yeah.
You said that you have a plan in place. Desi has said that it's on the way to being implemented. I imagine it starts in September
It's already starting.
because the kids are being placed for their classes next year.
Right, so basically what the plan includes is a reiteration of the exit criteria, and saying that there's no way around it. The exit criteria is the exit criteria, and we need to stay true to that. So there's really no leeway for a team to make the adjustment based on any kind of information, and the criteria is the criteria.
When do you get the access score results?
We have them now.
You do, okay.
They were released a couple weeks ago, so
Okay.
we're reviewing those. We've also increased monitoring for those students who were exited early, and we're providing that as part of our compliance in our plan. It's been approved by the department. The department has shared with me that by December we'll be out of this phase of the process, and we'll be on our way.
I mean, I recognize that the department has to cut a line that says kids who scored this need to remain in the program. And it's actually not a huge tax on the school system to keep them in the program. I don't imagine that's why you would early exit them. It's because they were probably performing at a very high level.
Yes.
Yes.
And it didn't make any sense to keep them out of electives or other things that.
Correct.
Looking at it from the student experience and the readiness, and of course communication with the family. Of course, in both cases, there was communication with the family before that decision was made.
Jackie?
Maybe just for the goodness of anyone watching and for the school committee, just speak a little bit to like that families can opt out of access of EL services.
Yes. There is quite a robust process when a student is identified as speaking a second language right from the beginning of the registration process. As part of the compliance, there are forms in family's home language that is communicated and shared with the family when the family has an opportunity to opt their child out of receiving services for English language education. And that process actually happens annually. So every year a family has the option to opt their child out of receiving services.
And some do. You still have to test them every year.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, so it's all there for protection, so I appreciate that you guys are walking through that process. So thanks, Laura, and again, congratulations on the other piece, that's
I
exciting.
see it as an honor.
Not really the first time you've been recognized that way, but we appreciate that. So let's keep it going.
Great. At this point, let's bring forward Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn to talk about the capital submittal update and the treasurer appointment.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Downey. Thanks to the school committee. And with further gratitude, we want to thank our member towns for their support at town meetings relative to our capital requests. And that happens on behalf of our students and staff and communities that use our facilities and use them to learn and start their futures. So this is wonderful news. As you're aware, the district administration made a deliberate effort to increase the school committee's involvement this year in the capital process through the ongoing updates and facilitating building tours that allowed for that direct observation of the facilities that we were talking about for capital for FY 27, but also 28, 29, 30, and 31. So we look forward to continuing this approach and being collaborative and enhancing that approach with our towns. And it was successful, and that's what's most important here. So below our on the superintendent's update is the updated table of what was passed at town meetings or deferred. And what you see there represents over $1.8 million in commitments from our member towns on improving the facilities and addressing capital needs. So we're very thankful. We look forward to doing all the work now that needs to happen. But again, this is a great partnership, and some good back and forth with the towns on relative to what should be able to move forward this year and not, and what can we defer as we work to be fiscally responsible partners with them.
I'll say just briefly on that, kudos to Mr. Mulcairn and our representatives who did the capital walks. The feedback we received from the towns was extremely positive in those walks, helped them feel informed and take that to their various boards for recommendation. Also, where you see the very last one, the scoreboard replacement hail of no action, that actually came in partnership with Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn's office in the town of Stowe. So we knew that well in advance. It was just one of those things that was already out on the warrant article. When we made the decision, we were going to wait to put that off until later.
Yeah, we'll see how we can problem solve that together.
Yep. So we were happy to see that our towns passed all those capital items for us.
Any questions? Yeah, Jack.
So, I apologize. I probably should have talked about this a little bit before, but when I was reviewing these materials, I think that, to Superintendent Downing's point, part of that capital planning meeting was a really great opportunity to ask good questions and to hear the kinds of questions that our town leaders are asking. One of the things that I think I'm seeing more and more is that there's people who have a seat at the table who are giving of their time and their energy in service of these types of activities, that their time is limited, right, when they are serving. And I wonder if there's some way for the work that we're doing in those meetings to live somewhere so that it can be accessible, knowing that people are asking questions or making misguided comments in public forums about the reasons why certain things are prioritized or addressed or upkeep. And I feel like the conversations that we had and the information that was shared, that was so rich that I could then, if somebody was to ask, talk specifically to the I think the fire suppression system is a great example, right? I would not be able to speak to that prior to that meeting, but I could after that. And so I just wonder if there's a way to I don't know, have access to that information publicly.
Almost like the narrative or explanation behind it. Is that what you mean?
Both that piece, and then if we're making a fiscal decision to not move on it, that that's a shared. There's shared decision making in that process.
I think it's just refining the capital submittal update through these reports, right? So the talking points are available, and then whether it's somebody who's from school committee doing the tours and the walks and wants to speak to that at the soccer field, at the PTO event or whatever it may be, but then also it's available for the public, and then as we get further, a little bit more potential refinement of that is when things are on the warrant or not on the warrant, why, and then what's the plan moving forward. So yeah, definitely listening on that, and I think there's space for improvement.
I agree. I think this process was really, it was huge, especially at center school where the building's so new, and to actually take them into the space.
Correct.
And help them understand various things like in the space was huge, and they had this greater understanding. So working with the town leaders that way was really important.
Mr. Jelenic, who's the Stowe Capital Planning Committee chair and has been since I've been involved in it, it resonates with me that at the end of the tour he just said, we should have started this years ago. And Mr. Jelenic's he's a tough cookie. He scrutinizes on purpose because that's his public role. And for him to be able to get in there and see it and ask more refined questions, I think is very helpful, along with any member of the select board, FinCom, the numerous folks that joined us. So it was great.
All right, want to keep it going to the treasurer appointment?
Sure. So this is annual and in compliance with school committee policy AAE. It's the recommendation of the administration that Victoria Chartier be considered for renewed appointment as the district treasurer for fiscal year 2027. The treasurer is responsible for the receipt, custody, and disbursement of all district funds with signatory authority granted annually by the school committee. This includes bonding for the new high school, which Mrs. Chartier has been significantly and extensively involved in. Most times I'm on the phone with the financial advisors relative to that. She's on the phone as well. She's also a Massachusetts certified treasurer, which you don't always find. And her work is also reviewed as part of the annual auditing process, which receives a significant amount of sort of compliments and praise as they see her work.
And this is something that we might find in the consent agenda next.
Correct.
Meeting. Do you guys have any questions about this? Victoria is not an employee of the district, correct?
No, she's under contract. Yeah.
Isn't it that does the policy allow for it to be an employee of the district?
It does, because she used to work in HR and would do this off hours. Correct.
Got it. Okay, so we contract her services.
Yep.
So are you able to share with us what the cost is?
I think for FY27 it's approximately $30,000.
Okay.
I will share when there was potential of Ms. Chartier leaving. I found significant difficulty in trying to find a new treasurer. So it's a relatively rare role. Municipal finance is not doesn't draw a lot of people in. So we're lucky that she stayed with us and is doing such a great job.
Is this peculiar to regional districts?
Most likely because in a municipally based, town-based, you're working with the town hall. Yeah, city hall.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just have a quick one. So if we're contracting for services, is she sort of like insured and bonded if she were to?
Yeah, we have I'm sorry, Jackie. I apologize. I jumped in. Sorry.
No worries.
Jillian, sorry, I jumped in. We have a separate treasurer's bond every year that's renewed. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, so let's keep it rolling with strategic work. Thanks for that, Ross.
I think we'll roll it back to Assistant Superintendent Flanagan to talk about the PRISM Early Literacy Program and our teaching and learning grants.
So the first update is really just an update relative to PRISM 1, and the committee is aware of that substantial grant that we are currently utilizing and benefiting from. And we like to just let the community know and the committee know that recently we had visits from local legislators. I know we highlighted this in the common, but we wanted to elevate it because we felt it was important for our legislators to see the work of the grant around early literacy in action in real time with our teachers and our students. So recently, Senator Cronin, Senator Kennedy, and Representative M.G.L visited Nashoba classrooms and toured kindergarten, first and second grade classrooms. And we were very pleased to visit with them in the classrooms along with the building principals in those spaces. So they observed literacy instruction in action, and we were also afforded an opportunity to meet with them after the visit to talk to them around the impacts of the grant and other items relative to school and district needs, which I don't know if you want to flesh out any information there, Superintendent Downing, but I know we appreciated those opportunities.
We're very grateful to our state delegation. They are highly engaged with us. They have many conversations. They even had an opportunity to engage with Representative Hogan at the town meeting this past weekend. And I know right now Senator Kennedy is working hard for us because the literacy launch funding of $25 million that was in the governor's budget was reduced to zero in both the House budget and the Ways and the Senate budget. And that is the line item under which PRISM is paid for. So currently, Senator Kennedy has signed on with Senator Lewis to amend the budget that will go to conference committee to reinstate funding specifically for literacy launch. So the relationship that we have cultivated over the past few years with our legislators is paying off in the form of engagement, and we hope we can get those funds reinstated. But I will say they are at risk right now.
What's the number?
The number for our prison grant funding, Ms. Mulcairn, is 240, Laura?
This year is 338.
338, but for the upcoming budget year,
280.
280.
Right.
So
We were grateful ahead of this to bring them into our spaces so they can speak firsthand. I know they also asked me for talking points. I recorded a video as well for them to share with their colleagues, so they can speak to the real world application and impact. So we remain hopeful that there will be funding supported through literacy launch in some capacity.
I'm kind of mystified by this cut. I mean, isn't this not a priority of the state to boost literacy after the failings of the last several years?
You're just as mystified as my fingers were when we started shooting off communications to folks that are in those rooms. It was a surprise to us.
It's one of the governor's top priorities, and her recommendation was $25 million, and the governor's recommended budget of $5.
There are several mechanisms, and I know as they're talking about other budget levers at the state level that they can use, particularly as I'm forgetting the funding source again, Ross, where we got the grant funding and
Earmarks.
for
Earmarks?
Yeah, so we got $100,000 in earmarks last year to augment our technology replacements, specifically for quote unquote smart board replacements that help augment that. So there could be other mechanisms which this is funded, but that's being chased down right now, and our advocacy circles are fighting for that. So this is why in the budget we didn't put those personnel positions into the budget, because it's never certain when it has to go through these processes later on. So that's why when we get let's say it's happy days and it's reinstated and refunded, we won't know that until mid to late June, and then the budget's ultimately not voted until July. So that's why you get the September emails of, guess what happened over the summer? And we move on with our plans.
Just so I make sure I'm following this correctly, if this funding doesn't come through, then we'll have to discontinue the program.
The tutoring program, yeah. Yep. The only way it can continue is if we assume that cost of our students as well. What I'll remind the committee is that our intervention levels are at a 3-year low, as we've been able to move students off of the warning and some risk categories into higher levels that are needing intervention. So this tutoring program goes to that. And if we don't fund it, we won't have those tutoring supports.
And just to be clear, the warning level is recognized through the STAR assessments.
Correct.
Through the Renaissance Learning Platform. That's how we assess
Correct.
if kids' literacy scores are dipping and need intervention.
Correct.
I did hear somebody at town meeting question the legitimacy of that program, and this is it right here.
Oh, yeah.
That platform is new since you've been here. We didn't have one prior.
It's new to us.
Right,
Yeah.
but like, we never really were tracking.
No.
I mean, we would use dibbles or things like other kinds of methodologies, but this is like a dashboard that shows where kids are across preschool even through 9th grade.
It's nationally and locally normal.
But you're saying that the intervention levels are dropping for kids
Right,
in what, K to 3?
Right, I know that it's in the superintendent's evaluation evidence, but we've seen a reduction, 27% reduction in students requiring intervention or urgent intervention.
Well, spoiler.
Yeah.
Sorry, Superintendent.
I was in suspense.
That's great news.
I would also say that screen is approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Yeah. Okay.
I have one other update relative to PRISM, if I may.
Yep.
And that is, Nashoba has also been selected as one of only 4 districts in the Commonwealth to serve as a PRISM 1 focus district. Again, this designation is an honor and reflection of our teacher and our building's hard work and commitment. The department selected Nashoba specifically to study early literacy implementation through the lens of our rural district, with the goal that our work can inform and benefit other districts across the Commonwealth. Currently, as a focus district, we are currently participating in evaluation activities which include classroom observations, educator knowledge inventories, and interviews and focus groups, and that work is happening now. But that's an honor to be selected from the 15 as one of 4. So we're very grateful to the hard work of our teachers and all of the providers in our buildings to make that happen.
Amazing. On to the next item.
Would you like me to speak to it? Okay, so the final update is just a summary. I know that we have spoken numerous occasions around competitive grant funding that we've been able to secure through the work of our department and again the work of our hardworking leaders and educators. And so we have provided for the committee and the community here competitive grant funding overview, and I'd like to thank Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn for his assistance with organizing this information.
You're welcome.
And what the competitive grant funding that we've been able to secure has looked like since the launch of our strategic plan in FY23. And this work connects directly to strategic objective 4 of our strategic plan, which is maximizing potential through effective resource allocation. So the data we're sharing tonight, and Almeida, if you can scroll down, reflects competitive grants that have been secured since, again, the onset of our strategic plan in FY23. We share this information for the needs of overview and information for our community. And so with the graph, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Mulcairn, to speak to the graph.
Absolutely. So the light green represents, so this is 10 years total, just on the graph. The light green is prior to the strategic plan, and then the dark green beginning in FY23 is the strategic plan. In the chart below, in the table below, you'll see each of the grants, their amount, as well as how they're tied to the strategic objective or initiative. So, the purposeful work that's happening out of the teaching and learning department that we support and are happy to support is all tied back to the strategic plan. So this is not entitlement grants, so this is not our IDEA special education grant, this is not our ESSA titles grants, but this would be work that either otherwise would not happen without grants, or if we wanted it to happen, it would be in the operating budget reflected in the variable assessment. So if you break down the $1.32 million that's here over 4 years across 3 towns, that's about $110,000 a year per town that either would have had been paid or not done if it wasn't for the grants and the work done by teaching and learning to get this happening.
I would argue that this is the good stuff, right? These are the enrichments that our principals and our teachers are bringing day to day. I see the pathways are in there. Yeah. Kudos to you guys for this additional work that not every school district does. And we don't, Laura, do you do all the grants? Your office works on all of these grants?
Pretty much, yeah.
We don't have a grant writer.
No, she's over here.
In large part, I would like to say that Ms. Hannigan has been instrumental in supporting our work now as she's transitioned into her role with the Innovation Pathways Grant. It's a team effort, right? You know, I'm constantly seeking feedback and input from our educators and our building leaders, and it's reflective really of the team commitment and effort.
It's pretty impressive. Nashoba?
I just want to highlight and draw the community's attention, everyone's attention to three different parts of this report. The first one, this was at the very beginning of this report, that Nashoba has been recognized as an exemplary district in federal grant program administration and has been invited to present at DESE's Federal Grants Conference, which is a recognition of the work, the great work that's being done. Another portion to highlight, it's in the PRISM section. Nashoba has been selected as one of 4 districts in Massachusetts to serve as a PRISM 1 focused district. And that DESE will study the work that we're doing to be implemented and in other programs to be a resource to other districts. That is an exemplar program. And then the third is in the teaching and learning grant section. As educators, we're compelled to provide excellent education for each and every student in order to create avenues towards success that are budget neutral to taxpayers. Teaching and learning has worked tirelessly to secure fiscally significant competitive grants. And again, grant writing is not an easy task, and it's not a fast task. And the work that has been done to support our students should be, I guess what I would say is, DESE is seeing Nashoba as a lot of strength at Nashoba and seeing Nashoba as a model district. And I really hope that that will be shared, and as one of Nathan's teachers would say, loud and proud in our communities. Our communities should be proud of what our district brings to our children and our families and our communities. And I am proud of that.
And grateful for our Nashoba team. 100%.
Right. Yes.
So as you look at this work, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the assistant superintendent. She's a very humble person. We, as a matter of fact, we've reduced that team. And this is a team of people that, through their efforts and their sweat equity, have been able to bring these things to our district. It's a great example of how they are fiscally responsible and thinking about what can we do to make sure that every single nickel we put towards education has value. And thank you for doing this and for bringing these programs. Not to mention, as you were saying, this is the stuff that lifts the work. Going all the way back to when we initially walked into the open-sided grants, I think was maybe the first grant we brought forward when you became assistant superintendent to this day now. So kudos to that entire team.
Yeah. All right, thanks guys. So we're going to now move the agenda beyond the superintendent's report to new business. We have 3 things here. And the first thing that we're going to be looking at is our high school principal, Dr. Boynton, is joining us. You come on up. Dr. Boynton, come on down. The price is right. We're going to look at the student handbook proposal. And again, this is something that you will probably find in the consent agenda next time, Kirk?
Yes.
Okay. And so we're not necessarily voting on anything tonight, but Kate, you are here to take maybe a little bit of feedback or questions.
Questions, absolutely.
All right, so Dr. Boynton, take it away.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, everyone, for the opportunity to share today some changes to our upcoming handbook for the 26-27 school year. You have before you and in the packet the change memo, and I believe in the packet is also, or linked, is the draft. So we, working with my school council, the handbook underwent several revisions in preparation for this next school year. I took the time to update the principal's message, which had not been updated in a number of years, in recognition that this will be our last year in the current school building. So I wanted to memorialize that and honor that, and then and bring forward our portrait of Nashoba graduate competencies as well in the message. And so then I'll be creating a new message when we enter the new building. So this kind of closes out that story of Nashoba with the principal's message in the handbook. Added the updated academic calendar at a glance from the district level. It's just a nice feature to have in the handbook, so I do that every year. I did also include a revision of the bell schedule to reflect our implementation of green and gold days, which will help kind of visualize our every other day classes. And also the bell schedule pilot, which, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in the NEASC section, which will be implemented fully second semester. So I wanted to acknowledge that in the handbook, that will in fact be using 2 different bell schedules next year. So that was in the handbook. We'll also include a link once the rotation is fully complete. We'll add that link into the handbook over the summer. I added in the links to both of our programs of studies. As you may recall from a prior presentation, we have 2 programs of study for our students, one for our current grades 9, 10, and 11, moving up to 10, 11, 12, and one for our incoming 9th graders because of our level restructuring. And so we have those 2 programs of study linked into the handbook. The 2 documents really should complement one another. Throughout the document, we changed guidance to counseling to reflect the shift in our counseling model to bring counseling forward. And also, you will notice an addition in the policy language for graduation requirements and competency determination to reflect the changes made by this body earlier this year. So that's front and center in the handbook as well. Under early dismissals, we removed the language and had a great discussion with school council with all of my students there that indicates that students who are 18 years or older can dismiss themselves with administrative approval. And our practice has not been that for many years. So that was outdated language in the handbook that we discovered. And as you continue to do reads of handbooks, you find things. So that was removed. I'm very happy about that. We no longer have that to refer to. In our class officer section for class leadership, we've shifted to a more broad leadership structure for our grades 9 and 10 students instead of elections for only 4 individuals. Students were not necessarily filling out paperwork to sign up for elections. It was a little scary, and so we felt it was appropriate to open up just anyone who was interested to become part of a class leadership council in grades 9 and 10 and learn leadership at the school level, at the class level, with our dean, with our assistant principals, and then move on to more elected positions in grades 11 and 12. It's worked out incredibly well with our 9th graders. This was the first time we've done it this year. We're going to carry that forward in grades 10 and 12. In grades 9 and 10 next year. Based on feedback from this committee, and I want to thank you for this, we took a really deep dive as a school council this year into our code of conduct. You'll notice a name change to the section. It's our behavioral code instead of code of conduct, really reflecting a more restorative approach. And then what we attempted to do as a school council is to bring forward the restorative approaches front and center, and then ensure that the language was really consistent throughout, while maintaining, there's a section at the end of that portion of the handbook that really does need to speak to the laws of Massachusetts and DESE expectations, but making sure that the restorative language was really embedded within. We also made sure that any of sort of the charts were clear, emphasized restorative approaches, and then the formatting, my students and my parent representatives in particular really spoke to the formatting, not only in the charts, but some clear bullet points. It just made it much more readable, and they were instrumental really in that. We will be updating our leadership team and department heads at the beginning of the program of studies and our protocols for communication. We have several retirements, and so we're in the process of identifying new leaders, and so those names will be updated. As I mentioned before, we'll add in the rotation calendar link when that's completed over the summer, and then also I turn the document over to Marcia Winter, my administrative assistant, who does a final review and edit just to ensure that everything looks great. And we always find something, but spelling, grammar, font style, size, spacing, all of it, so that we end up with a professional final product, and we continue to improve on it year by year. Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to talk about one item that did not make it into the handbook this time around. And if you recall, I think it was back in the spring, March maybe timeframe, where you and Vice Chair Cohen attended a student council meeting, a STUCO meeting, where they proposed some sample language around passes at the end of the day. It was a 10-6-10, no passes at the beginning of the class for 10 minutes, only gone for 6 minutes, and then no passes at the end. And this was in response to a practice that we implemented this year, which was seeing a lot of kids in the hallway at the end of the day, no passes the last 20 minutes of class. So they presented the idea to us at a STUCO meeting. I then took that idea and their proposal to my school council for feedback. And universal feedback from all members was that we need a little more exploration of this. They really wanted my student council, our student council, to lead the communication effort for this and not just have it put in a handbook. So what we're going to be doing is STUCO is going to be going back and looking at the policy, maybe making, or practice, maybe looking at refining some language, communicating it to students when we begin the school year, then trying it out and getting full school feedback before we put this in a handbook, before we sort of capture it in policy. So that'll be one of the first things that STUCO works on next year. And it was pretty universal. My parent members didn't have much feedback, but the students and the teacher members of the school council, especially the students, said we really want to dig into this a little more and let our STUCO lead this. So that was sort of the biggest piece, and it did not make it this time, but. Maybe next time. Well, I imagine that we'll give an update because you'll be coming in the fall, so I hope that we'll be able to give an update on that proposal. And I will turn it over to any feedback and or questions. Thank you.
No small task, this annual initiative. How many students do you have on the school council?
6.
It's a lot. Unusually amount,
Yes.
which is great.
Yes.
Any questions?
I just had a quick question about the focus on restorative language. Just if you could redefine that a little bit.
So part of when a student breaks a school rule, we want that student to be able to learn from their actions. If their actions have in fact harmed someone, we want there to be a way forward for that student to take responsibility and repair. And there may be some traditional consequences attached to it, but it always comes down to educating the student and really ensuring that they're able to perhaps make amends if they, in fact, have harmed a member of the community. Yeah, you got it.
And Dr. Boynton, it also reflects what's written in law on 37 H
Yes.
and 3/4. Do you want to speak to that for a moment?
Absolutely. We always have to take a progressive approach, and we have to ensure that we are exercising and utilizing all of those restorative options that are available to us before we take any kind of a more harsh traditional disciplinary or consequence measures. That is absolutely something that schools are required to do. We also believe it as best practice ourselves, because we want students to be able to learn. They're teenagers, in high school, and they make mistakes, and we want them to learn and grow.
Great, thank you. I will point out, though, that there are some offenses that will surpass all the restorative
Yes.
practice because they present a danger and makes
Yeah.
sense. The harm is far too great.
Absolutely.
Makes sense, yeah. Any other questions? Can you maybe, Kate, I know that we talked about this briefly, but can you talk a little bit about the academic integrity section and just where the AI guidelines are that we heard about at the beginning of the year, and like where that's going to land in the handbook?
I think I imagine it landing in the academic integrity section, or we have the acceptable use section at the end. I feel like that's something that's sort of the next step that we'll take, and I look for guidance. I think that's something we would be talking about, since we just had our AI sort of guidelines communicated this year. I feel it's something that our district leadership and certainly begin with my school leadership to have as our sort of next year in the handbook as language that gets more codified. I imagine as well, based on the cell phone law, that there may be some changes in that realm as well, still to come. But
So that's a completely different animal, but I hear that is advancing. The bell-to-bell.
so we're watching that. It's not codified yet because it's not there yet, but it is advancing. So more to come on those, and yes, the AI is on my mind as something to capture in a future handbook.
Great, so I think though we still have the stage, Dr. Boynton, because the next item on our agenda is the NRHS NEASC update.
Thank you for allowing me to present NEASC. I'm going to try to go off the slide so I make eye contact and not read. NEASC stands for New England Association of Schools and Colleges. It is our accrediting institution, and member schools are on a 10-year cycle. And very recently, just before COVID in the 2017-18 timeframe, NEASC did change its methodology that is more supportive for schools. So just wanted to name that. And we're in the middle of our accreditation cycle. Alita, next slide, please. So here's our timeline of our most recent cycle. In the spring of 2024, we were identified as a spring of 27 decennial visit. So decennials every 10 years. And in that spring, we had our self-reflection committee and our steering committee identified. The steering committee was myself, former assistant principal Ms. Boulay, Mr. Zersi, and Ms. Davis. And then the self-reflection committee was our leadership team, so department heads. So that was formed in the spring of 24, and then we underwent some training exercises and sessions with NEASC. And then on the first day of school, we formally and officially launched the NEASC self-reflection process with Allison Geary, who's our NEASC representative. She came and presented to our school and spent time with teachers and our leadership team. And then we engaged in a very robust 4-month self-reflection process. And as a school, we identified priority areas. We identified ratings for each of the standards. And then we wrote our self-reflection report, multiple parts to that, shared it for feedback as part of the process with our staff, and then uploaded it and prepared for the collaborative conference visit. And that's sort of the mid-cycle. Collaborative conference is 2 days that happened April 30th and May 1st of 2025. Following the collaborative conference, that team writes a report and submitted that over the summer to the superintendent and myself for review. And out of that is identified priority areas, and we as a school develop and then begin to implement a growth and improvement plan. And so you will have seen in the high school's current improvement plan a reflection of the goals and growth areas identified out of our NEASC process. And basically, we identify as a school our priority areas, and NEASC reviews those, and in this case, and if we do our job well, they agree with our self-assessment. And so 25 to 27, we are developing and we are now implementing our growth and improvement plan. And then starting next year and really kicking in full year in the winter through February of 2027, we will prepare as a school. So we'll reconvene our team of department heads and school leaders. We'll prepare and submit a school summary report that documents our progress and on our growth priorities. And then in April, the packet says May. I went back and looked and ensured we are an April school, so it'll be 3 days in April where our NEASC team will visit. They try to get the same folks who have, in part, who visited us 2 years ago, so that they have some history. The visiting team will review evidence. They'll visit classrooms, look at programs, talk to constituents, including school board members, district leadership, school leadership, parents, students from the collaborative conference. And then there's an accreditation determination that is made by NEASC based on the visit findings and supporting evidence, and they issue a report in the summer. We were found meeting all of the foundational elements. Olivia, you can go to the next slide because that'll show those. Those are the foundational elements. Any school not meeting a foundational element would be given some feedback at the collaborative conference, and then they have 2 years to meet the foundational elements. We have met all of those. The one that's crossed out is for CTE schools, so does not apply to Nashoba. And so we're in really good shape there. Next slide, please. So next steps following this annual visit. In the summer of 2027, the accreditation report will be shared. We'll communicate that out. I'd love to present to school committee in the fall of 27 to share that. We then do a revised growth and improvement plan, and then there are submitted into the NEASC portal 1 year, 3 year, and 6 year updates. And then we begin the process all over again. So there. Next slide, please. So here are our priority areas. And really, priority area 1 is around our new building. This was in our prior NEASC report 10 years ago. We were found not meeting this foundational element. That was one of the driving factors for proposing the new school. So they recognized that, well, we're still in a current building that doesn't meet the educational needs of our students. We are building, and thanks to the community support, we're building a new school. So we are now in the steps to prepare to move into the new building. We have been making curricular shifts, focusing on student engagement, and we are also exploring a lower upper school model in terms of our instructional approaches and support for students. Alita, next slide. Priority area 2 is all around curriculum and instruction, student engagement, and portrait of a graduate. All the steps there are things that are currently ongoing to help us achieve this priority area, whereby a fully enacted high-quality curriculum and high-quality instruction is available for each and every one of our students. I'll just read a range of those things. So co-teaching within grades 9, expanded to grade 10 next year. Our continued partnership and deep work with Kaleidoscope for Deeper Learning. We have our illustrative math curriculum for Algebra 1 that is involved with coaching support. We have a relentless effort within our classroom observation cycles on student engagement, well-structured lessons, and student discourse. We have planned professional development in social studies on inquiry and social studies following a book read. We're deep into a 6 to 12 writing working group. Excited about innovation pathways expansion, dual enrollment as well. We've restructured our course levels, and then we're making curricular shifts in science and a world language proficiency model in world language, and then in science is the NGSS standards. Almeida, next slide. I'll take questions at the end. Priority Area 3 is really around our communication and expansion and embedding of the Portrait of a Nashoba graduate competencies really fully within the curriculum for all of our grades. And we have taken some steps where we've remodeled our counseling seminars. They're smaller and they're more intentional for grades 9 through 12, grade-specific developmental curriculum. We have phased out Naviance. The senior class is the last class using Naviance, and we're implementing school links. We are still working out some of the kinks with school links, so more to come, but we have a great assistance and support from the school link side of things, and then I know that there's a great team of staff members on our end working on that. We do currently have a Portrait of a Nashoba graduate timeframes scheduled monthly with very intentional actions that our students engage in. We have portfolio development for postgraduate through school links, so we're working to bump that out and have robust portfolios. And then we are really exploring senior project evolution. This priority area does need a little bit of work, so we need to much more fully embed with intention and integrate and track the student progress on the core competencies across all grade levels. And I would say really that integration and tracking, we're still figuring that out. So that's something that my leadership team, department heads, and administrative team will be tackling and taking on, because we want to make sure that it's seamless and embedded within our students' experience and not something seen as other. Almeida, next slide. Our priority area 4 is really around our multi-tiered systems of support. Our bridge and student success staff has been working with faculty and have done a number of presentations around the tiered supports that they provide and offer. As mentioned in a prior slide, we are expanding our co-teaching model with coaching support in collaboration with Rowan. We have a planned implementation of common planning time, PLC time, as well as tiered supports in 2026-27 for teachers within the core academics of English, math, science, and social studies, removing them from a traditional study hall duty and repurposing that time for PLCs and really looking at tiered supports for students. We are seeking early college designation with grant-funded career counselor, and we have not heard yet if we have been brought into phase 1 of that process, but we've submitted our interest there. And then we had a team of 6 individuals, including Assistant Superintendent Friend, myself, some teachers, and our guidance department head, and Mr. Walker, one of my assistant principals. We participated in 6 sessions, a really robust DESE workshop on MTSS and schedule models, which helped inform part of what was developed for Priority Area 3. So we worked with DESE and a scheduling consultant over the course of this year to help that development. And Almeida, I think this is the last slide. And priority areas 4 and 5 are intrinsically linked, right? So priority area 5 is to identify time during the school day for staff to analyze student work. Well, that's the work of a PLC, right? And then collaboratively plan units, lessons, assessments, and interventions within and across departments. So we have a goal of broader implementation of the Tier 1 and 2 academic supports with using our teachers instead of a study hall in those core academic classes of English, math, science, social studies, and working in PLCs, and then some common planning time in addition for our co-teachers, and then our Bell schedule pilot 2nd semester of next year. And I think that's the last slide, and I will happily take any questions.
Okay, so busy. Dr. Boyd, any questions on yes? Let's go.
You got your hands full.
Yes. 5 priority areas is quite a bit, but yes.
In light of the timing of their visit in April of next year, which I assume a non-trivial part of the point of coming is to evaluate the facilities, we will be in the waning weeks of that facility.
Yes.
How are you going to handle that situation?
So I actually think I'd like, with permission from our building partners, to take them on a tour of the new building, of the new facility. I think that would be part of. They always go on part of the experience for both collaborative conference and decennial is a tour of the facility, not just that's aside from going into classrooms. It's just to see the physical plant. So that I think will be part. So it may be a little bit of a longer tour because they'll need to probably see both.
Almeida, can you go to priority area 3 for me? So this is just an observation, and I'm wondering, the portrait of a learner is something that we have implemented as the kind of K-12 vision for student learning. Are you finding that the teachers feel prepared, right? If you're I'm just picking out of a hat, a chemistry teacher, and then you are being told that you then have to pivot to teach them about the portrait of an Nashoba graduate. Like, are the teachers feeling prepared to do this work? Because they are your emissaries. You can't teach all 800 kids. You have to rely on the chemistry teacher and like all of the teachers to make this come alive. What kind of training are they experiencing? Are they feeling prepared to do this work?
I think there, quite frankly, is a varied levels of comfort. We're not delving deep into anything controversial with our students, but if I'm a chemistry teacher, I may not feel comfortable necessarily talking about creativity as an example, right? Even though I think chemistry is inherently creative, right? So we talk about it at staff meetings, and then we have quite carefully with a team, we have a portrait of a Nashoba graduate, it's a mouthful, design team that curates these lessons that teachers implement. I think we need to improve. So this, to me, is an area, because it is having a vision of a graduate is one of those priority standards in NEASC. So this, I think, needs a little bit more attention for us to ensure that everyone really feels that comfort level and also can see the connections within their own curriculum, because there are natural connections really across the portrait competencies.
If I may, just to educate the community and maybe community members that weren't here as part of that, Justice, our portrait work isn't a 9 to 12 effort. It's a pre-K to 12 effort. And so we looked at this across all the school systems so that we are bringing forward to the high school students that are hitting these multiple elements of culturally competent citizenship, empathy, and so on and so forth, to build those skills. And I know Assistant Superintendent and her team in their professional development and curriculum work that they've done have looked to think what are those transfer skills across our competencies that can be applied throughout the curriculum. So it's work that is growing and embedded in many elements of what we do.
And I will share that in our curriculum work, in our curriculum design and unit and lesson development, we do embed and really speak to how are we pulling in the portrait competencies within those. And teachers have really begun, definitely more work to do, but have begun identifying and making transparent to students in this assignment, here I'm really honing in on a learner's mindset for you. And so be thinking about that as you're doing this particular work. So where we continue, there's always work to be done, but we're continuing with intentionality to work on
Do you ever envision, so K to 8, this is landing on the report cards?
Yeah.
right? So we're assessing students on the report cards for communication, creativity, empathy, culturally competent, global citizens, right? My daughter's report card, right? Their report cards had those check marks. Do you think the high school will ever have that there?
I would love to see that. We'd need to, obviously engage in what that would look like, but there are different models for communicating out student performance at the high school level. I can't name them off the top of my head, but I have taken a look at a variety of different ideas. So yeah, that is something that kind of excites me. So,
because it was pretty darn awesome for the K-8 report card to see that. I loved it, and my daughter loved it.
Yeah,
she really appreciated it.
Versus a letter grade.
A letter grade.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I just have one more question on 4, Alita. Would you go to that one? And actually it's 5 as well, but if you go to 5 too. So much is dependent upon a pilot. And so what I'm noticing is that 2 priority areas are dependent upon a pilot schedule. What if the pilot does not succeed? What will NEASC think about that a year beyond?
That's hard to say. I think that we will certainly need to respond to that if the pilot does not succeed. They may give us some feedback to say, go back to the drawing board and try again. I think the intention behind the semester is to really be able to fully compare 2 different schedules, as give them equal time and let it sit with folks and live it for a full semester. And I'm hopeful because the schedule that we're proposing to pilot is not completely revolutionary by any fashion, and I think it's quite beneficial for students and staff for fewer transitions, as well as longer class time to really dig in. But it's something that I have worked very closely with Allison Geary, and who's our NEASC point person, and so she and I would likely have a conversation, and we'll know shortly after the NEASC visit whether the pilot passes per our contract language, right? As a schedule moving into the new building. So she and I will likely have a conversation about what guidelines or what guidance they will provide. It could likely go into our new, a continued improvement plan.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you all so much.
As always, your plate is very full. We appreciate you.
I appreciate the time to share.
Thank you. Thank you. You're awesome. All right, everybody. So we're gonna move the agenda to our favorite topic, and that is policy. First reading. Jackie, what do you have for us? There seems to be 5.
So I was trying to figure out what would be the best way to address this. So there is some important information that I need to just kind of highlight and pull out for the team and also for policy subcommittee, because one of the things that happens on an episodic basis is that updates to policies are recommended by MASC, and 2 of the policies on here have updated recommendations. So if it would be okay, I'd like to talk through some of that with the group based upon our conversations.
From a process standpoint, Jackie's going to walk us through it. We can give her and her policy subcommittee feedback, and then they are going to bring back to the next meeting revised versions of them. They will be in the consent agenda, and unless you guys want to pull them out of the consent agenda and still revisit them individually or after another meeting, but who's going to take notes for you, Jackie?
I was just going to ask Julian to do that.
Happy to take notes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so walk us through it.
So let's tackle the easier ones first, specifically ECAB, access to building and grounds. This is a new policy that the policy subcommittee met and reviewed with Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn, and then a second time prior to bringing it for our first read. as part of the May 2026 policy updates from MASC. In the 5th paragraph of the proposed policy, it's a little bit further down, Alita, they're recommending in that the sentence that says access within the building will be limited to only those participating in the authorized event and to personnel whose work requires it. So there's one word added to this. So I think part of our ask is that when we come back for this second read, you'll see one red line version with the inclusion of it. It's not a major change. Another policy just to pull out, and so the other thing too that's more important, I guess, to this is we had some really great conversations knowing that we are bringing a new high school online and we want to be really conscientious of that access to school buildings. So I think that we spend a lot of time like just talking through this, and this is the policy in the clean version that we're recommending the school committee vote on at a upcoming date. The second one.
Questions for each one?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Any questions on building access?
Okay. So.
This is the only one I have an edit on.
Oh, good. Let's do it.
The 4th paragraph.
Yes.
Take out the first word, please.
We can consider that.
Instead of saying during outside of school hours, just say outside of school hours.
All right. Good.
That's it.
Yep.
Anything else on this one?
We're going to move on, if there's no other questions, to KBG. So we had the opportunity to review this with Ms. DeManch, and then we talked about it as a group, so we reviewed it 2 times. So this one was really useful as a conversation with our leadership team and the policy subcommittee, and taking into consideration use of the equity decision-making tool that has been provided by DRJ. So as we were going through this, if you scroll down, Alita, so the major thing that policy talked about a little bit further is that there's a piece where they are referring to the English Learner Parent Advisory Councils and multi-language learner parent advisory councils. So when we were talking through that as a group, at this time we do not meet the requirement put forth regarding maintaining an LPAC or an MELPAC, because we, at this point in time, we have, I believe it's 3% of district-wide EL students. But we are making the recommendation regarding retention of that language. However, what was really great was MASC, it provided a lot of additional edits in this May 2026 policy update to include best practice for all the different parent advisory councils, as well as additional guidance regarding that parent advisory councils are not subject to open meeting laws, and so there is specific guidance there. So at this time, as chair of the policy subcommittee, I'm recommending that we consider the proposed changes in the clean copy that we provided to the school committee, and then prioritize addressing review of the updated guidance with the new policy subcommittee at a later date. Questions, concerns?
Yes, go.
I take it back. Sorry.
You're fine.
You're good.
I'm just trying to comprehend. So there's several places in here that are quotations, correct?
Yep.
Are those straight out of M.G.L?
Yeah. Same one.
Could we add citations? Like
Yep. If you scroll down.
footnote? I know they're down there, but it's not clear which quotations are from which source.
Mm-hmm.
Could we do an enumeration or something so we know which quotation is from which source?
So I think that the majority of the quotations are act relative to language opportunity for our kids. I'm happy to do that, but that's not the precedent that we have currently, and I think that that should be a conversation for future policy subcommittees members, because it would set a new precedent that then we would have to go back and think about, are there other areas within the existing policies that use quotations and like having those footnotes or references. So I think that's.
I don't remember seeing quotations before, but
I don't either, actually. On the top of the second page, Alita, scroll up just a tad. There's like a quotation mark before schools, but no end quotation.
continuation.
Yeah.
But then there's an open quote after LPACs and MLPACs right before the R. And then there's a closed quotation. So like the fatter paragraph seems to have the open and closed quotes, but that one line above it is just hanging out there with an open quote and a closed quote. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I question whether or not that's one of like just edits that they included.
Just a typo?
No, in their original, it did. That is exactly how it is. But in the update with the clean version, they fixed that, and they also took out a lot of the quotes. So.
Wait, is the clean version in the
No, because it has not been reviewed by policy. So I think if we want to make this, like from an edit perspective, we can address those changes. I also think that if the ask is that we just do this in one clean, like we can table this one and address it at a later time.
Yeah.
I might make the recommendation, given that we just got this guidance.
Yeah.
Since this is already codified in CMR, we're not in a pressure situation to pass this policy this school year. So I would make the recommendation that we just table this one for now and forward it to the committee we know which one they start with next year.
Okay.
Oh, they have more than that.
They always do.
I'm in favor of that approach because this whole thing feels strange to me. Like it's like the whole thing got passed down to us, and including quotation marks. And it's like, well, wait a second. Are we doing our own policy, or just taking the law? In which case, why do we need policy?
The other thing
There's nothing compelling us to take care of this before the school year closes.
Absolutely, and I think that the guidance pieces that are included in the policy, the proposed edits, I think will be a really rich conversation that I think that we should consider, and then from an editorial perspective, take out anything that is irrelevant for us as a district. So I'll update that on my end as long as we're okay with that.
All right.
The other major edit that I want to pull out is policy JKAA, and that is the physical restraint and seclusion of students. So this updated policy was driven by amendment to 603 CMR 46, made by the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education in June of last year. So in the meeting materials, these are red line recommendations based on both the crosswalking of current Nashoba policies and the amendments that are required to be implemented on or before August 17th of this year. So this is a very time-sensitive policy. It was reviewed extensively by Ms. DeManch. We reviewed it as a policy subcommittee with her and Superintendent Downing, and then met I want to say either a second or a third time to review the proposed changes, and we are recommending that NRSC adopt the changes as proposed. But if there are specific questions, edits, or things that we want addressed, happy to talk through those now.
So my only comment would be, I consider you our strongest member in these types of situations. Are you comfortable with what's being promulgated here?
I am. I think that for me, from a process perspective, I was very confused initially when I was walking through things, and what had really solidified it for me is that we currently have JKAA and JKAAR, and so they're two separate but related policies that are specific to physical restraint, timeout, physical restraint, and seclusion of students. And so I felt like once we were able to meet as a subcommittee and walk through those, I think that this makes, not only does it make sense, but it really is taking out some of the procedural things that I don't know need to be in policy, and creating, I think, more clarity for students, families, and our communities when they read the policy.
Great, thank you.
Do you think that JKAAR is still fine? I mean,
that will be removed.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
So this update to JKAA is going to replace our JKAA and remove the R.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And because this is how things work, this is a very time-sensitive policy that we need to look at and vote on prior to the conclusion of our time this year. There is updated guidance and a clean or model policy that MASC released as part of the May 2026 update. I think that at this point in time, based on like a very preliminary review of what they're proposing, it would be the recommendation of policy to look at and approve what has been presented this evening in a second read and voting, and then at a later date in consultation with Roanne is to really take a deeper dive into whether or not there are any recommended updates to that policy later.
Okay. Any other questions?
And that, those are the major ones.
Okay. So there are two others that we haven't necessarily called out specifically, but are there any, they are student fundraising activities.
I think those are just minor changes, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I will say KI, maybe Alita, could you just bring that one up? We felt like this was a really appropriate policy to have because it just really cleans up a lot of information regarding anyone visiting the school, and it actually I think is we made the recommendation that we should adopt it.
But there's no, I mean, does it completely will eliminate the current KI, and this is the total rehab of this.
Yeah,
policy.
and the way that KI, so I think this is what happens when there's so many iterations of a policy that then is addressed. So that really was looking at like observations and people coming, to observe students for programs, things like that, that really are, that they are more operational, I think, in nature, that this is just a very clean proposed version of KI for all schools in the district too.
I can remember building this old KI, and it was a really tough conversation because there's a lot of sensitive practices here. So I appreciate the new version. Any questions on the new KI? And then student fundraising, it's just minor. Yeah, okay.
No raffles.
Anything on policy first reading? All right, thanks policy as always.
I just want to take a moment to thank our Director of Student Services. It's not an easy undertaking to go through what our existing policy was, what our current practices are, and this new guidance. And I just want to say thank you to her for the work that she put into this.
All right, guys, so we're going to move the agenda again beyond finance and operations because we've already heard a little bit of that. And we're going to do, this is kind of our finale. As Kirk likes to say, he's the lucky duck who's the only one that gets to be evaluated in public.
It is the favorite part of my job. I was hopeful we'd be walking out into sunlight like we did in our May meeting last year.
Yeah,
so,
sorry.
Alas.
Before you get started, Robin, do you want to just help the committee remember what they are going to need to do
Yes.
in just a couple of days for you.
Yes, so you should have from Almeida the new and improved ability to use the Google Sheet to do the evaluation. Do you put that in here?
Yep,
Okay, perfect.
Right, it looks like that, you guys, it's the survey tool.
Yep, that's there. So, and I also attached, Alita put in the training slides in case anyone needs to go back to that. Plus, there's all the really great resources on the final page of the training deck. And just remember that just given the time crunch that we have with the Memorial Day weekend, if you guys could get your responses done maybe over the weekend so we have them by Monday, which is the 18th. And then the personnel subcommittee is going to meet and put it all together.
All right, any questions about process? All right, Kirk, I wish I had a drum. I would roll it. Take it away.
Oh, the pressure. Well, we have 42 pages to go through line by line.
I will
So
say.
if you can all just refer to your document. I say that in jest. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your introduction. And I am just going to breeze through the document. I think you all, there's nothing in this document that has not been presented to you previously. A couple of data sets that I've included that we haven't got into, and I'll point those out. So as you know, the structure that we have in our superintendent, you saw it today in the superintendent's report, is we point you to the strategic objectives and initiatives that work is going to in that section. So we're always appraising you and updating you on the strategic work of the district. This captures that. And so I won't go through all the items. I don't think that would be a good use of our time, but I will just certainly point out some areas for you to look as you're reviewing and assessing. I also think it's important to recognize that while I am humbled by the evaluations and what the viewpoint of this committee has been historically, this is the work of an entire school system. And our educators, our leaders, are all reflected in the work of the district. So it is not just the superintendent's work. My charge is to oversee that we are doing the work and that we are aligned to the strategic plan that we've laid out, and are able to adjust as curveballs come to us throughout that period as well. So in that spirit, you'll see that it is for the years 24 to 26. This is the second year of the 2-year cycle, thus being summative. The initial section is simply defines many elements of the evidence before you.
Can I just interrupt very quickly?
Yeah.
And say, can this go on the meeting materials? Am I just missing it?
Oh,
You did share it. I did see that just come across.
forgive me. I'll ask Ms. Masterson to put the PDF copy into the meeting materials. Yes, that was my error. I sent it out to everybody on Monday, and we can post it to the meeting materials.
So it's in your drives, everybody, if you want to actually have it on your screens as Kirk presents it to the screen.
Great. So our student learning goal is based upon our universal screeners and how we are looking at growth metrics. And the typical statistical growth metric for meeting typical and high growth is 65%. We set a district standard of 70% because we're trying to close some gaps. Earlier tonight, you heard us refer to we've been able to reduce the number of students needing urgent intervention as an example of that, as we are shifting students from along the curve in their learning. And so this is something that we always look at, and we shared some of these things in evidence last year. I'll just scroll down to some of our evidence here that you can see in our fall screening data, which is a 12-month look. I gave you 2 pieces. The fall to fall data is a good way to take a 12-month look. And then it's set up where we can look from our benchmark data in the fall and compare it to the winter benchmark. We are currently in our assessment window for the spring benchmarks. So this is the best data I can give you as evidence towards those standards. And I would say, by and large, we're meeting that goal. I list it as significant progress because I take it quite literally. In every sector we're not meeting the goal, we're not meeting the goal. So when you look at that, in our 12-month looks, fall to fall, that would be fall 24 to fall 25. Excuse me. 74.7% of our students make typical growth for reading, 67.5% for math, and 72% of our first grade students met their growth targets for early literacy. We, of course, don't have growth data for our kindergarten students because they're just starting their journey with this, so we don't have the first data point for them. When we look at our winter benchmark data, you can see that we are at 71.6% of growth in reading and 72.5% in math, and at that 65.2% mark for our early literacy screening. But I think it's important to note that this is where you see that 27% decrease in students requiring literacy intervention in grades K to 3. I wouldn't say that is what's the right way to say it? Totally define that word there. It is an indicator of the programs that we've implemented being positive. The true test of that would be how we do over time with our efforts. The second goal around professional practice is equitable access to high-level learning experiences, fostering engagement and academic growth. And looking particularly at our subgroup data for that. So you can see the activities that have been conducted over the last couple of years, and we loaded this up with some significant evidence last year. Some of the work of our walkthroughs, the work that we've done with Dr. Larry Epstein, the work that we've done with Dr. Denise Warren, have been the activities that have worked us along in developing some capacity in our educators. The cycles of our multi-tiered systems of support and the What I Need to Know Now blocks, I think, also contribute to our efforts in addressing student needs, particularly students that are needing some extra or urgent intervention. The implementation of our EL curriculum is in our second year with the full implementation of the ALL block and our literacy curriculum K to 5. The kaleidoscope work that's been conducted at the high school, those are all things that we talked in the formative year of activities that have been going on. I wanted to add in the 25-26 evidence. This is where the area of the evaluation where I did use an AI tool, there's a link there to the advanced placement data set, and I'll just pull that up real quick. There's tabs going back to 2021, and you can view this for your own consumption. What I will tell you is that while we have advanced placement data in 2025, students had already selected those courses at the high school in the spring of 24. So our efforts in taking down some of the barriers, recommendations, overrides, things like that, to access AP courses wouldn't be reflected in 2025 numbers. And right now, as our students have been completing their AP exams for 2026, we'll collect all that data, of course, when it's complete and have that for next school. But here's just some basic trends of what that 21 to 25 process looks like. Knowing that there has been a narrowing for the high needs students in terms of their percentage points of participation in AP courses. I wouldn't read that, however, as a result of the effort of the work for the reason I just stated. Our data, this is one of those data sets that lags behind us because of the course selection process. Okay, so those are the two elements that are based on the student learning goal and the professional practice goal. The other elements that are required in the evaluation are the power standards, which you all identified. There were areas that I need to look for. But what I've done historically here is to point out that's reflected in our strategic plan. So I put all the evidence in the strategic plan section and then just made notes down below so as not to just copy and paste and make this document 60 pages. Just made note of, see this section above for more evidence to those superintendent performance standards. So when we look at strategic objective one, we think of this as our communication objective. And I think as we have demonstrated through the years, we've made really concerted effort in our communications for our families. The most recent work, I think, is around you. Decided to share the report card tonight. The report card is a tool that has been revised in an effort to better inform families and also help students lift their own learning as well. As a major communication tool, you can see the weekly efforts that are put into the common to educate our community on all the things happening across the district. I have to tell you, that piece and the work of Ms. Hannigan in our communications office, it's exemplary. I go to other places and have had a chance to speak in some roundtables, and it's been cited by other superintendents as we're just copying what they do now, because it's such excellent work. Not to mention that we've taken over the communication responsibilities of the building project and keeping that updated as well. Moving into strategic objective 2. This is a really beefy section. It's the teaching and learning section. This is where you see a lot of the conversation we had tonight about grants, lifting the curriculum, doing the professional development, the alignment of scheduling is all reflected in here. So that's where you see the professional development schedules, development of curriculum guides, the math and science updates. Scrolling down to 25-26, being the newer of the evidence, we decided to work around the prison grant, cross our fingers that we were able to keep moving that, and some effort on the early literacy impact, and the work that's been done with our district learning walks. This has been tremendous. I can't emphasize enough how this has had an impact, I think, in the overall educational pedagogy of our leadership team, which has resulted in much better feedback loops for our educators in their evaluation cycles. So as we've been using these DESE tools on our walks, Assistant Superintendent Friend leads our work. We do cross-building walks, so our evaluators from one town come to the other town and cross buildings to share those practices. And now we're talking about, okay, how do we take what we've learned from these things and bring these trends back to our educators to say, not you, educator A, in your classroom, but to say, here is the pattern that we see across our schools, and highlight where we see the things where we're really lifting learning, and highlighting the areas where we say, here's an area where we could put some more emphasis. This is all in a spirit of learning to be more effective educators. It has been a primary focus of our work this year as we visit our schools. Engagement in the schools from the leadership team, I think, is critical to excellent schools. And so I should have included this perhaps in one of the sections as well. I have bi-weekly consult meetings with our principals in their buildings. Assistant Superintendent Friend capitalizes off of that in sort of a yin-yang way, where we do the learning walks in the buildings, so we're able to get in there weekly to our schools to support the learning that is going on. And as a result, I've been able to build relationships with our educators and some students. One of our students was walking down the hall just yesterday and said, "Hello, Mr. Downing." One of our teachers said, "She knows you." It's like, yeah, that felt good. Oh, okay. You don't get that a lot as the superintendent. And then, of course, here's a citation around some of the work with digital learning and artificial intelligence also. I'm going to pause for a breath. And we look at equitable opportunities and outcomes for all through increasing awareness and representation, practices, communication around diversity, equity, and inclusion. You can see these are some of the things that are tied up to the professional practice goal that I cited earlier. Bringing in the Cult of Responsive Professional Learning series, you can see we've trained over 72 of our faculty in that process. I have also included the links to the State of the School from summer of 2025, along with the mid-year updates that our principals gave on their State of the School presentations from last summer. If you have the opportunity to read through those and glance through those, you are going to see 6 entirely different presentations. This is an opportunity for each of the schools to really focus in on What are the conversations and things that are happening in those schools? But it is evidence, it's important evidence to look at so that you can see how we're taking that work and walking it through our leaders to the schools. And you'll see some emphasis in looking at some subgroup data so that we can start pinpointing areas where we're going to need to be focusing. I will share with the committee right now as we are preparing for next year, for our retreat this year, and for next year. Mr. Manch gave a presentation on some of the shifts we're making with our specialized program for special education. We're not stopping there. We're taking it even a step further. We're going to be doing a leadership series for our principals and for our leadership council to sharpen, sort of deepen their understanding, not just the law, but effective ways to lead your faculty, every member of the faculty, not just special education teachers, but we are all special education teachers, each and every educator in our system is. And so our work next year is really going to be focusing on that. And so I'm kind of cueing the committee to, when you make some decisions on the elements you'd like for me to focus on next year, no, that's going to be a real focus for us. And because I think that comes back to our whole approach of focus on each and every. So carrying through into strategic objective 4, it isn't just the budget section. It goes into other elements as well in terms of hiring practices, HR, operational elements. This is an opportunity to once again highlight the exemplary work of our finance office led by Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn and his team that have done a spectacular job for the school system. I had a chance to attend the Lancaster town meeting, and I was very humbled by the praise that our Lancaster leaders gave to the school district, and even said that our budgeting processes and our budget book was a model that they would like the town of Lancaster to look at for future ways to build their budgets. And that's not a citation against Lancaster leadership and how they build their budgets. It was directed more as a compliment to the school system and the work that we do here. So I think some of the efforts that we added to this year in an effort to further deepen people's understanding of the fiscal state of the district was cited in the partnerships that we offer for our towns. I think one important element to point out is that Assistant Superintendent Mulcairn and I meet with our town administrators monthly. We start those meetings in September, and yes, we start talking about budget as early as September with our town administrators because we believe it's our town administrators' charge to take the conversations we're having in my office back to their committees and inform them of the things that are happening in the school district and the processes that are coming up. So we had those. We had meetings with our town leaders, the FinCom chairs, the select board chairs, the advisory chairs, and they all accepted invitations to come and sit down in the process as we were looking throughout the winter and ultimately up to the budget season. Mr. Mulcairn, you all participated, some of you participated in the capital walks that happened, and the praise that was given is meaningful because it validates the impact that those walks had on people in advancing forward the needs of the school district regarding capital. So I think that, again, strengthens the exemplary work of that department as we move forward. The last section I won't spend a lot of time on because it is the elements that this committee pointed me toward to focus on, along with some elements that were added at my urging. So you'll see I just put some notations in here. See documentation under standard 2 of the strategic plan as the primary area you can look at to look at the language of these proficiency standards. What I did do under standard 2, management and operations, as the committee took out of that the social and emotional well-being of students. Sharon, I remember particularly our conversation about that particular element. I grabbed things from a couple of different places, which is why I did make some notations back up because they lived in a couple of spots as just reminders of some work that we're doing towards that standard. Again, family engagement, student support, you can find primarily in objectives 1 and 2. And in the 3, I can argue also, and in professional culture, looking at standards 2 and 3 of the strategic plan, I think will give ample evidence to show the fine work that all of our educators, our teachers, our principals, our district level leaders are doing to make Nashoba a model outstanding school district. So, with that, Madam Chair, I yield my time.
Very good. That was quick.
How did I do? Did I get it
That was
in
great.
10?
No, but.
No.
Do you guys have any questions? Yes, Julie.
I noticed in your goals for 1 and 2, you indicated sort of how you had rated yourself, but perhaps it's just something I'm missing. But when I was
Did I
looking
not click my boxes?
at 3 and 4, I just didn't see it. I didn't see anything.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Of course.
I look at all these areas as significant progress.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you for finding that error. I will click it on my doc that I have shared with you. And let me speak to that for a minute, because, and I think as we're preparing next year as our 5th year in the strategic plan and thinking about how we're moving forward with this, I put a concept forward to you this past year of when you're talking about learning, I can't ever get myself to a place to say met, because it implies done, and we're never done. But I think when we identify some of the things that we're doing, they become operational. So as we talk about some of our standardized benchmarking practices for learning, they're now operational. Like, we're not introducing that and retraining folks on that. So as we come to the retreat, I think that would be a good place to examine and set forth in our strategic plan, okay, what do we establish as operational? What do we see walking over? I still continue to move on with how do we get this foundation established for our school system, right? It's the one thing I just can't get traction on. We got to sniff out there in the world, and hopefully it's going to grow. But anyway, so I see that as significant progress.
Any other questions? Yes, go for it.
This is just maybe more of a process question because I've never done this before. So perhaps this is maybe better geared towards someone else on the committee. But if we have questions about maybe a piece of evidence, I'm just thinking, like, for example, if I saw a mention of the podcast, I've always been curious, like, what could we get information on, like, what's the listenership for the podcast, are we allowed to sort of delve into follow-up questions, or is it sort of like, this is the data and this is what we're assessing?
So that was going to be one of my questions, Kirk, and that is, how would you like us to address questions to you? Because I think Jillian's question's a great one, and if Kirk can find it, he'll send it to you.
Yep.
How do you want us? You want me to funnel questions into maybe a spreadsheet and then send it to you?
I'm looking at Robin, only because I have fear of this sort of spider web, of information that could get lost in the wash. We have our process of funneling things to the chair, so if you like maybe we can forward the questions to Robin, and you can just put them in a shared doc. And then I would be happy to take any email from a committee member to say, Kirk, I want to alert you, I put some questions in the shared doc. And maybe that'll, and then I can just put it right back in that shared doc. Now here's the issue with that is it could be an open meeting violation if we're collaborating in the shared doc, particularly with commentary. So,
I mean, if people have multiple, they come through with the same kind of questions.
yeah.
If I pose the question to you and you give me the response, I can.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Just want to be mindful of that.
So, like, if Jillian asks a really great question and she is provided with evidence around the listenership of the podcast, you wouldn't be able to give that to the entire committee. And so now Jillian's in possession of additional evidence.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So we want to be mindful of that because we don't want one person having extra information that will weight their responses. I think Jeff, when he was here, said that the listenership is not as robust as he'd like it to be.
He's gonna walk into my. He's gonna walk into my office at some point tomorrow morning. He'll say something like 16 last week, something like that. I can see it now, but it is problematic.
It's problematic, but I'm gonna rely on Robin to use her best judgment, and if you need any help with that, Robin, let me know. Clarifying questions, 100%. Funnel them to Robin, and then Robin can get clarity for you. But asking for additional evidence might not be a great idea. I like your question. What other questions do you have?
I'm really hoping I completely drown you with evidence.
I'm sorry, I have one more, and then I promise I will be done. Again, this is just maybe more for going forward, not for this particular cycle, but having, sort of people managed when I'm doing evaluations, one of the, perhaps sometimes the most important piece of evidence I might get is an interview with my subordinates. We call it 360 feedback, kind of getting some insight from the people who actually work for the person that I'm evaluating. And I wonder if that's ever been considered, or if it's done, or if it's not something that is feasible.
We do it annually, as a matter of fact.
I love it.
Are we bringing that tomorrow? I think we're bringing that tomorrow, right? So we've already worked on those with Bridget. She's got the surveys set up. So yes, I do collect those.
Do we get access to
And
that?
I'm happy to give you access of mine. I don't provide it for the other leaders in the district.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because
absolutely.
that's part of their process that we talk about in their growth and development. But mine, yes, I'm happy to provide that too. So now I'm not going to have that in time for you to give me feedback on this.
No, absolutely. That was again in the future. I was just curious.
But perhaps that might be a good element for the retreat, where I could bring the 360 data back. Happy to do that. And this is something that I actually prepare and do and share in the retreat with the administrators. So they give me feedback on these things. I did this the second summer I was superintendent. First summer I hadn't been here yet. As a way to sort of say, this is how we do this. And I will say that in that first year as I was fishing around that, both at the time, Principal Friend and Principal Noel Karen shared information about how they collect their 360 feedback. So it's not a new process for us.
Great. Thank you. Good question. I'm now done.
I came across a couple of links that are not open, but it's from like 24, stuff that we've already seen. So maybe the sharing just got shut off. So it's the SEL surveys and maybe the State of the Union, but they're all Kate's.
And I went to the principals last week and said, make sure your sharing settings are on. So I will remind them at the principals meeting again. I will also let them, because they'll set it to NRSD can view, or no, those with a link can view. So they know that. Madam Chair, if you press on the link and Dr. Boynton sees that, she'll open that up.
Oh, I can send a request.
Yeah, but I'll remind people tomorrow at Principals Council to open those docs up.
So timing is never our friend, because a lot of the end of year stuff is not quite done yet, right? We still haven't had a month of school yet. We're evaluating superintendent before everything's completely done. So one of the things I think happened in all the schools is that you did a spring survey of the kids around belonging, right? At the high school, we did it by department. That's not included in your data because you guys haven't probably even poured over it yet. Can we look at that at the retreat as well?
Sure. I think it's great. And we're taking some of the feedback from the committee off of the and Assistant Superintendent Friend, if you can help me, we're taking some feedback from the committee after conferences. It was one of those things where it was so overwhelmingly positive. It's like, how valuable is the feedback, right? And so that's where we're going to adjust that, and we're going to do our initial parent feedback post-conferences with a follow-up later in the year. So we'll actually have 2 data points in the next school year.
Okay, great. Any other questions? So we have our work cut out for us. We thank you, Kirk, for that very thorough compilation of all the hard work of you and your team. Robin has said to us that they would like our surveys done by Monday. Right, Robin? Mm-hmm. And this is part of our personnel subcommittee goal that we all participate. So do your very best to get that to Robin and her team so that they can, at the next meeting, build that composite. I think that is that.
Thank you.
Okay. So as you guys can see, the agenda is kind of wrapped up at this point. We do have an option for subcommittee report outs. Anything that anybody wants to share about their subcommittee work? Scott?
I want to put in a commercial for the 7 people that are watching us right now. Dozens of people who are going to watch our replay in the coming days.
Yes.
The Audit Advisory Committee is still missing a STO representative. So if one of you is interested in helping on the Audit Advisory Committee, please email me or chairperson to let us know that you're interested and a resident of STO. And that committee is also having a meeting in 2 weeks on the 27th, where we will get the readout on the state audit and the federal audits. It will also be, we got the financial audit back in January, and the meeting in a couple weeks will be providing any follow-up questions you might have for the auditor, as well as discussing our report out to this committee. So if anyone wants to come and share in all the fun, it's at 11 o'clock on the 27th.
And that report out that the Audit Advisory Committee is going to give, by regional agreement, it's required, that you are going to share with us at the organizational meeting, and you're also going to share the audits with us, which is also required.
The financial audit was actually shared in January, correct? It was completed, but yes, we will also share the federal and state audits.
Okay.
At the next meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Any other subcommittee sharings? Building committee.
Yeah, building committee next Thursday night. I think next Thursday is looking like a boilerplate meeting. So passing of invoices and some updates on the building would be pretty exciting. Madam Chair, there is one thing I forgot from my superintendent report. And
Yeah, go right ahead.
you don't mind after
I don't mind.
go back to that. Is to recognize in Nashoba we're kind of unique. We celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week over the course of 2 weeks. And a lot of that has to do because of MCAS scheduling and things like that. So I wanted to take the opportunity, and I'll be sending my message out this Friday to our educators, but just to really show how much we appreciate all of our educators. That includes our teachers, our nurses, our psychologists, our chairs, those things. Kevin, you're here tonight as a representative of all of our educators in the district, and we're only a great school system because we have great people in the classrooms working with our kids, and so I wanted to recognize them, and we'll be sending a note out this Friday thanking them for all their work.
Great. Teacher Appreciation Week. Go teachers. Go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to say too, thank you to our PTOs and a lot of the volunteers across the community in making a concerted effort to also include the high school this year, and that was really nice to see.
Hopefully we can get more over time.
I hope so.
Yeah. The building committee, are we doing a tour this month? The 21st.
Thank you.
I don't even have it on my calendar, but
We are doing our tour, so school committee, you are invited, and you should have received the invitation from Ms. Hannigan. Our tour is going to be a little bit earlier because, frankly, there's a lot more to see than the last time we toured. Everywhere you walk, there's cement now, so that's good. And it's going to be very exciting to see. We want everybody there, I believe, at 5:15 to get your PPE so that we can begin the walk in earnest at 5:30.
is anybody able to go?
I want to go so bad.
I know, you really should try. It is amazing.
I want to go, but I will have my 7-year-old with me, and I don't think that he's going to be cleared to go in.
All right. Well, bummer if you can't go, but
You'll see it one day.
in about a year, you'll all be able to go in.
Yes.
So, okay, so that's the building committee.
And we will be hosting our state delegation on June 1st for a building tour. So our state delegation is coming back to Nashoba for the building tour. Something tells me we'll find an opportunity to have some more conversations about finance.
Yes. Any other subcommittee shares? All right, guys, we have done a ton of work. This meeting is always one of the longest. Lots of important stuff. Thank you to the entire team. I'm looking at the agenda for our final meeting here. Almeida has it pulled up. Thanks, Almeida. Equally large. So we have also, very exciting, we have a kind of truncated Dear Jay presentation there. They said that maybe 2 people are going to come. Okay, maybe not. Let's you and I chat about that. Okay. But maybe Lindsay was going to touch base with our CPAC chair, Pam, to see if they would like to take advantage of it in this meeting or in the next. All of the subcommittees need to bring their goal reflections. You probably still have access to the spreadsheet that was shared so long ago that outlines the benchmarks. So if you could just get ready to share out your accomplishments, and if there's anything that you didn't quite complete, that's okay too. And then that's a Zoom meeting, and it'll be our last meeting for John, Jackie, and Amy. Yeah. So that's that. But then again, June 10th is the organizational meeting for the next go around. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you guys will see that it is really an operational meeting. There's not a lot of substance here, except for the audit advisory group coming to hang out. The educator evaluation update just snuck in there. I'm not sure what that's all about, but we can chat about that later. Little school choice update on the results, and then that's it. Retreat is already booked on the calendar. It's in August.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
since you brought it up under future business, the committee asked if I would bring back an amended recommendation for the freshmen school choice, and I may have a need to do that. Knowing this has to be decided by June 1st, a vote will have to be taken that night if we adjust the number higher than 27.
Yes.
On the 27th. So just
Is that on it? It'll be unfinished business, right?
yeah.
Leah, can I just remind everybody that Memorial Day Mondays counts as 48, within the 48 hours. If any subcommittees are planning a meeting, can't count Monday.
For your 48-hour count.
Oh.
Anything else for the good of the order? I'm going to move to adjourn.
Second.
Scott got it. All those in favor? Next time. All right, guys.